everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of Two Tech Coaches and a Microphone. I'm Lacey, and you can find me at TechNerdLB on Twitter, and here is my awesome friend and co-host.
I'm Kendra, and I am Tech and Teaching on Twitter.
And we are both tech coaches for Charleston County School District. And like I mentioned previously, this is our very first podcast. So, Kendra, let's take a minute before we get started to explain what we're doing today.
So today we're going to do a podcast to guide people through getting started out on Twitter. Twitter is one of our favorite tools for getting resources and building a PLN. Why did we decide to do it as a podcast again?
It's a very interesting question. Kendra and I are super smart people, as you're aware, and we thought if you could just hear our voices and not be distracted by our beautiful faces, that it would be helpful for you, that you could open up a tab on your computer and you could head on over to Twitter, and you might also open up another tab in your computer and head on over to the Google Forms that follow along with this, and that our voices would guide you through Transform Session 3, Option 2. So that's why we're doing this in podcast form, so you can listen to us.
So if you haven't done that already, open a tab, go to Twitter, and open a tab and go to the form from the IDLC website, where I think you probably linked to this from.
All right, so let's get started. As Kendra mentioned, our objective today is to help you learn how to use Twitter so that you can build a PLN, which is either a personal learning network or a professional learning network, or it could be both. And the reason why we like Twitter is because there are bazillions of resources and ideas and other professionals that you connect with who are interested in doing a lot of the same things you guys are trying out in your classrooms, like blended learning or augmented reality or personalized learning or just teaching science. It could be real simple too. So there's tons of people on Twitter. They're all professionals, and we're going to walk you through how you do this.
Lacey, did you know that the president is on Twitter?
I did, because I Googled him. And I check this out, people. So our president, Donald Trump, tweets about 6 tweets per day. He does.
That's a lot of tweets.
It is. So we are mentioning this because we thought it was kind of cool that the president is directly communicating with his people, the American people, and it's kind of cool to be like the first people in the whole world to know what President Trump is thinking or what he's saying. It's like you're on his own staff, hashtag first to know. So we thought it was pretty cool that, and some of you might be interested. You might catch on with this idea of Twitter just for that one thing.
He's a pretty prolific tweeter.
He also, just fun fact, he's ranked number 67, which is far below Beyonce and Justin Bieber and Katy Perry. But I am ranked like 5 million and something, so ranking number 67 in the whole Twitter sphere is pretty high.
That sounds pretty good from where we're sitting.
That's right. So like him or not, he is the president, and if you follow him on Twitter, you can be in his ear. You can see exactly what he says as soon as he says it, which is pretty cool.
So there's a lot of people that you can connect with on Twitter, and that can be really helpful if you are a lone wolf teacher. So if you are the only Spanish teacher at your school, or you're the only counselor, or you're the only whoever, or if you have another person at your school that maybe isn't doing the same things that you are or have the same goals as you, Twitter can be a great support network and a great place to find resources. I think Lacey also mentioned you can find people who aren't educators. So if you teach science or you teach math, you can find like actual real live scientists or mathematicians or authors. There's all sorts of people who are willing to connect with you and work with you and be a resource for your classroom on Twitter as well.
All right, so Kendra, let's move on. These people, we've already asked them to head over to Twitter, and they probably, because we work with very smart people, they probably have already started creating their accounts. So let's not talk about how you create the account because that's pretty self-explanatory, but let's talk about account names and some important tips for creating your handle.
I think that's an important thing to think about. Some people have really good handles and account names. Other people, not so great. One thing to keep in mind is that you want your account to be as short as you can. On Twitter, I'm not sure if you know this, that you only get 140 characters, so that includes spaces to sort of get your message out there. If you are trying to tag someone and their account name is like pineapple 16 33 89 15, that takes up a lot of your characters, and it's really hard to remember what their account name is. So you want it to be something pretty concise, and optimally you want it to be something that tells us a little bit about you through the name on your Twitter account. So what's your account again, Lacey?
My account is, right now, it's at TechNerdLB.
So I know already that you love technology and
do.
that your initials are LB.
And I'm a little bit of a nerd also.
I like it. See, so that tells me a lot of stuff about you. It's pretty short, and it's pretty easy for me to remember that your account is TechNerdLB.
So, just as a side story, I was watching or scrolling through Twitter and I found this girl. It was hilarious. This girl whose name was like Belieber Girl 1001 or something like that. And she said, "Hey guys, this song is awesome. And I never listened to Justin Bieber songs." And everybody started trolling her and laughing at her and saying, "Really? Because your username is Belieber Girl 1001. Why are you saying that you never listened to Justin Bieber?" The point of this story, like Kendra was saying, is that it can tell you, your handle can tell users and other people a little bit about who you are in a pretty fast way. So that's an awesome feature.
Something to keep in mind is, so you're going to make your account and your handle today. If in 6 months you realize, man, I did not pick the right handle at all, you can change your handle and you won't lose any of your followers and you won't lose any of your following. So if you change and go in a completely different direction, that's okay. Your account pretty much stays the same.
That is good to know. So maybe I'll change mine. Maybe in this podcast I'll tell everybody my Twitter handle is at TechNerdLB, and then I'll change it on you.
I like your handle. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I'll keep it, I guess. All right, so we've got our accounts created. You guys are probably playing around with your computer screen, seeing what there is to do. So let's get into some of the details. First of all, let's start with how do we find people. And I think we were going to talk about this later, but Kendra, let's start with why do I need to follow a bunch of people? So, for example, my dad is on Twitter, but he only follows one person.
Who's that one person, Lacey?
It's Donald Trump.
He's our president.
So, my dad, he's not super into Twitter. And I would argue that the reason why is because he only follows one person. So, Kendra, can you speak to the fact of why having a whole bunch of people that you follow is better than only having just a few?
Sure. So when you look at your Twitter account, there's that middle part of your screen that it's called the stream. If you only follow one or two people, like Lacey's dad, there's not going to be a whole lot of content there. And another sort of thing to think about is you're not going to have any sort of divergent ideas. So it's all going to be one thing because it's all from one person. If you can follow a variety of people, you're going to get information and resources and ideas from a lot of different people, and that can help spark your interest in things and sort of help you to think about things in a different way, which is, one of the reasons that I'm on Twitter.
All right, so let's talk about the mechanics and the logistics. If you're looking at a Twitter page, how can you go and find people to follow?
That's a great question. So you can search for people on Twitter. If you go in the upper right corner, there's a search box. You can search for names. Like if I'm searching for Lacey, I could type in Lacey Bryant with a space in between, and it likely will get to her. If I know what her Twitter handle is, I can also type in @TechNerdLB, and that'll get to her as well. If you're not sure of what someone's handle is and you're having trouble using the search in Twitter, I've also used Google before, so I could search for Lacey Bryant Twitter, those 3 words on Google, and I could find her that way.
All right, so as you guys are doing this, remember we have Twitter checklist 1 of 3, and in here for you is a list with all of the coaches and instructors in the IDL program. So we are going to ask that you find and follow your coach and your instructor that you work with. And also we have a suggested list of people who we think are awesome Twitterers and are great educators. Like we have the Christensen Institute and Ed Elements and a bunch of other people on our list. And we also have some resources for you, some things like the best kid authors who tweet and top 100 South Carolina educators to follow on Twitter, some things like that for you guys to check out. And then we have a few additional ones for you as well. So, Kendra, will you talk about these people real quick so they have some other ideas?
Sure. So this morning we were brainstorming some ideas on who else you could follow, and there's a little bit of overlap on a couple of these, but these were just some other people that stood out to us in our Twitter feed that we enjoyed seeing the content that they shared with us. So Alice Keeler is a good one, and I think she's on list number 2, but she's a great one because she shares a lot of Google Drive stuff, and it's materials that you could see in the morning before school and conceivably use before the end of the day, which is nice. So she has a lot of really great stuff and puts out generally good materials. Lacey brought up the Neil deGrasse Tyson. You could follow him. He has some great stuff that he's sharing. You could follow Judy Blume because, I mean, who doesn't like Judy Blume? There are also some other ways of using Twitter. Instead of just following people, I follow an account called Real Time World War I, and this is an interesting Twitter account because it shares the events that happened on each day during World War I. So it's not a person, they're not tweeting anything about them, they're tweeting as if they're World War I. And I know there are a bunch of other ones for events, there's like the French Revolution and all sorts of other cool stuff, so they're interesting ones to try. And our last one is ISTE, and their handle is ISTE Connects. But they're a good one for EdTech. They have a lot of good resources, and not just technology ones. There's a lot of good teaching resources as well on there.
All right, thanks, Kendra. So here's our next topic. Let's talk about the pound sign. Just kidding. Let's talk about hashtags. So a lot of people have heard about hashtags, but not everybody is familiar with what they are and what they do. So let's talk about that for just a minute. So Kendra, let's just start with, what does it look like? What is a hashtag?
So the hashtag is the same as like the pound sign on an old school phone, which we actually found out that are on our like cell phones. We just both checked our phones and it's on there too. Who knew? But it's that sort of pound sign or the number sign with the little, almost looks like a tic-tac-toe board. And
right.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, now that we find out what it looks like, most people really care, probably. What does it do? Like, what's the point of a hashtag?
So a hashtag almost makes like a custom search for you. If you notice a hashtag on Twitter, it won't be in black, it'll be in blue because it's a link. So if you click that link, you'll get to see everything that has been tagged with that thing. So in a lot of the work that you're going to do on here, we asked you to tag hashtag Transform CCSD. And if you tweet with Transform CCSD, you'll be able to see all the other people who have tagged a tweet with that same thing, which is nice because then you get to see a sort of bigger picture of that same event, and you can also follow people who have used that same hashtag.
All right, so let's give some examples. If I, in Twitter, search for hashtag awesome sauce, I would get pictures and videos and tweets and stuff from everybody in the whole entire world who tweeted anything that had to do with hashtag awesome sauce. So if you take a minute to go do that, you'll see that there are great posts or tweets from people about educational stuff because awesome sauce happens in the classroom, but also there are great sauces for chicken nuggets with the hashtag awesome sauce. Kendra, let's talk about some other hashtags.
So one hashtag that we were looking at today was hashtag Inauguration Day. So we're recording this on January 20th, which is Inauguration Day. And we saw that hashtag on the left-hand side of Twitter. That's where the trending stuff goes. So something is trending if lots of people are tweeting about it and talking about it. So that's one of the things that's trending today is hashtag Inauguration Day. And you can go back in time. So if you're looking at this in March, you can search for hashtag Inauguration Day and see all the stuff that happened on Twitter during the inauguration.
That's pretty cool. Some of the other hashtags that we think are interesting are hashtag EdTech and hashtag podcast.
It's funny, Lacey. I actually tweeted this morning and said that today was a big day in history. And I said that it was a big day in history because we were recording our first podcast. and I made the word podcast the hashtag in that. So you can make any word a hashtag. It doesn't have to be something that other people are using. You can create a new hashtag. You can do a hashtag however you want to do it.
That is hashtag awesome sauce. All right, next topic. So let's talk about those tweets. So you guys probably are checking out Twitter. You're looking at what's on there, and you've noticed that when you look at people's tweets, there are 3 little symbols underneath each tweet. So let's get people acquainted with these things. On the very left is a left-facing arrow, and when I hover over it, it says reply. Kendra, please explain.
So if I'm looking at a tweet and I want to reply to it, so let's say that Lacey tweeted something about Breakout EDU because she did a great PD on it and people were really excited about it. So if I use that reply, it's going to get me ready to write a tweet, and it'll automatically tag Lacey. So it'll say @TechNerdLB in it. So it's going to send her a notification that I'm tweeting about something that she tweeted about.
And then I'll know that somebody was interested in what I said, and it'll give me a notification. It's awesome.
Well, of course people are interested in what you say, Lacey.
Of course they are.
What's the next symbol?
Okay, so in the middle, I think, is it's like a square with 2 arrows. Can you tell us what that means?
Sure. That one means retweet. So that's, if Lacey makes a tweet and sends it out to Twitter, and I like what she said, I can use the retweet button to do the same thing. So it'll take Lacey's tweet and send it out as me. So it'll share it to my followers.
So I hear people talking about retweets a lot, and in fact, when I'm looking at my page right now, I see that the Associated Press has had their story retweeted 11 times, which I guess is pretty cool.
Yeah, sometimes those numbers get up real high. So you'll notice that when people retweet your tweets, you can see how many times they retweeted it by looking at the number next to the retweet symbol. So if one person does it, it'll have a 1. If 300 people do it, it'll have a 300 next to it.
That's pretty fabulous. All right, the next symbol that we have is a little heart, and some of them have numbers by them, and some of them don't. So if hold on, let me just guess. If I click this heart on this Education Week tweet, it's going to tell Education Week that I like what they did.
Exactly. Just like on Facebook, there's not impressions like there are on Facebook, so you can just like it on Twitter, but it does the exact same thing, and the person will get a notification that someone liked their content.
All right, so if I click on a heart of a tweet that you did, it's not going to send out a tweet for me. It's not going to automatically do anything. All it's going to do is tell Kendra, hey,
Lacey liked what I did.
Loved your tweet. It was awesome.
Thanks, Lace.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so just a few more things. When we're taking a look at each individual tweet, in the top right-hand corner is a little gray drop-down arrow, and it says More, and it says Share via direct message. So say I see this really cool tweet on blended learning, and I have a teacher friend who's also on Twitter, and she's trying to find out more about blended learning. I can send this message directly to him or her, and nobody else in the whole universe knows that I did that. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's also a great place to do, since people tweets that you want to include snarky comments for that you don't want other people to see.
Ah, sneaky.
That's mostly how I use it.
I like that. Okay, so we also have some other options. We can embed a tweet. We can copy the link to a tweet, and I guess we can email those or embed them in our website. But I see it also says that we can mute people and block people.
So that's important because earlier you were talking about the Belieber girl, and you mentioned that people were trolling her. So when you troll someone, that means that you're like harassing them on Twitter. So if you find that someone's harassing you, you can either mute them, which means you'll never see any of their tweets, or you can block them altogether so they can't see anything of yours.
Yeah, and there's also an option just for those of you who may or may not be worried about it. You can report it. So if something happens to you that you think is totally inappropriate, you can report it to the Twitter police.
And those are great lessons for your kids too, because a lot of your students are probably on Twitter, and you want to make sure that they have the tools to take care of themselves online.
All right, so Kendra, we have covered all the cute little symbols. We've covered hashtags, which I think most people are unfamiliar with the hashtag part. That's what keeps them from doing this. But let's talk now about how to write how to write an original tweet. So give us some guidelines. I've heard lots and lots of people say, I like Twitter because it's real short and easy to read. So how short is a tweet?
Each tweet's only 140 characters, and that includes spaces.
And also includes other people's names and includes links and stuff.
it does.
But it does not include images. I guess we'll talk about that in a minute.
No, that's new.
All right, so say I want to tweet a recipe that's hot dogs in ketchup. And this is the recipe, and I want everybody to see that not only am I having hot dogs with ketchup for dinner, but here's a recipe for putting ketchup on a hot dog.
Well, because you use fancy ketchup.
I do. Fancy schmancy ketchup. So I might want to include a URL. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, that is a website address. But I'm looking at this URL on the page I'm at right now, and it's really super long. So how can I include in my tweet about my hot dog dinner the recipe that has a really long URL and my verbal description of it?
Well, I think most people would assume at first that you could use a URL shortener, but that's an extra step, and Twitter wants to be your pal. So if you just paste that long URL right into your tweet, Twitter will automatically shorten it for you.
Aw, thanks, Twitter.
You're welcome.
Hashtag awesome sauce. All right, so let's talk about those images and videos now. So Kendra and I were talking the other day about let's make sure that we talk about this. So Kendra, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
It is.
People who are listening and following along, when you tweet, try and keep that in mind, that you can send a much better message and people will be visually attracted to whatever you're talking about if you can include a picture of your ketchup-covered hot dog instead of just writing text that says, tonight for dinner I had ketchup hot dogs, okay?
I think that's a really good point. And if you look through your Twitter feed right now, I'm assuming you'll be drawn to the ones, the tweets that have pictures too. They're just more appealing, and it's more likely that people are going to engage with your content if you have some sort of image.
All right. So also within a tweet, one of the other things that you can put is you can tag people. And as Kendra mentioned already, we are encouraging you for the checklist. You'll see in there that everything that we're asking you to do, we want you to tag your coach and also your instructor in all the tweets and retweets and everything that you do within Twitter. So how many people can you tag in each tweet, Kendra?
Well, you can tag as many people as you have space for in a tweet. But the nice thing is if you put an image in it, you can tag 10 people to the image, so it doesn't count against your 140 characters. So if I'm sending something that I know I want to tweet or tag a lot of people in the tweet, I will frequently add an image to it and then tag the people in the image.
That's really smart. That's why you're here. That's why we have this podcast, guys, because Kendra's smart.
Hey.
So let's talk about being successful on Twitter. So we have been talking a lot lately about how I've had my Twitter account for years, but I didn't use it for a long time. So Kendra and I came up with some advice for y'all on how to be successful with using Twitter. So Kendra, take it away.
Well, so Lacey, I heard you say that you had your account for a long time and you didn't really use it. What was the first thing you did that made it so that you used your account a lot more?
I got the app.
Oh, so you put it on your phone and your iPad?
Yep.
That's awesome. And what does that let you do?
All right, so first of all, the app is super helpful because it's free. It can go on any device, like Kendra mentioned, phone, iPad.
I think it could go on an iPod too, maybe.
I don't know. Don't they just play music?
No, those iPad touches. They have the internet, I think.
We'll have another podcast about iPads.
We'll clarify.
So anyways, it can go on any type of device. It can send my notifications directly to my phone, for example, and it's real super handy, as in my phone's always in my pocket. So when I'm sitting at lunch duty, if I don't want to talk to the other people in the cafeteria, I can go find a table and I can check my Twitter feed, and it is useful because it's with me at all times.
I like that. Something to remember, if you are using it on our Wi-Fi at work, make sure that you authenticate your phone, because otherwise it won't work.
That's absolutely right. So another problem that I had, Kendra, why I wasn't really using Twitter at first was because I was super busy. So do you have any tips for people about, like, they're checking this out, we've asked them to give it a shot, go ahead and set up their account and tweet some things and find some people to follow, but how can we help them continue to use Twitter?
I think that's a good point. A lot of teachers have a very similar problem. So some teachers that I have taken time to schedule a chunk of time that they can take in their account. I'm going to say that again. So some of the teachers have scheduled time in their calendar that they can check Twitter during. So whether it's 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, during their planning period or during lunch duty or before school happens. They just have that time set aside in their calendar because they know that they can find really great resources. And if you choose to look at it prior to school starting, there's a good chat that happens in the morning, and I think it's pretty much every morning, called BFC 5:30, and it's called the Breakfast Club AM chat. I think it starts around 5:30 for all those high school teachers who start super, super early in the morning. And they have all sorts of great stuff and have a good community built up.
All right, so for those of you who are thinking, all right, I can set aside a few minutes once a week, maybe a good day would be Twitter Tuesdays. Just take a few minutes on Tuesdays during your planning or before school or after school to check out what's going on in your Twitter feed, and that's a fabulous suggestion for how to keep this going.
Great, so we're pretty much on the road to being finished here, Lacey.
All right, let's wrap it up. So for everybody listening, we have linked 3 forms, which we are hashtag sorry not sorry, but they are a checklist of things that you need to do in order to complete Transform Session 3, Option 2. It's nothing super difficult, and our objective is to help you guys get used to Twitter and see what are some things it can do and to make some connections so you can build your PLN. So nothing too difficult, but there are 3 separate checklists for you to take a look at. Remember to tag your coach and hashtag Transform CCSD in all of your tweets, retweets, etc.
We also added a piece that will probably help you find Twitter less annoying. Twitter wants to notify you by email every time something happens on your Twitter account, and that's something that Lacey and I have both turned off because I don't know about you, but we get more than enough email during the course of the day without Twitter emailing us 100 times. So in one of the lists that we get sent to you and are posted on the website, there are instructions with a screencast on how to disable the notifications so you don't hear from Twitter ever.
Yeah, because that's so annoying when you turn on your computer or open up your phone and there's 500 emails. So that's priority number 4. It's in there. We knew that it would annoy you, so we are definitely addressing. How do you turn off those notifications? I think that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for joining us today for Transform Session 3, Option 2, and join us next month for another episode of 2 Tech Coaches and a Microphone.